Yeah, I think we're ready to start.
Okay, well, it's pretty cool. We've got 27 people here. It's good to see everyone. Sam just joined us. So,
Clarence
anyway,
is here.
okay, I think we're ready to start. So since you were kind of prodding us along, Kitty, I guess I'll go ahead and start the meeting. To those of you that don't know me, my name's Kathleen, and Dodie's going to start us off by cutting away to our first slide. Most of you know our longtime club members, Vince and Kathy Owyoung. For the rest of you, it's my real pleasure to introduce them to you. They've been married for 60 years, as in 60. They own a Japanese black pine, that's a bonsai, their anniversary tree that they've had for just as long. Vince and Kathy represent the best of who we are. Most of us would rather do just about anything than speak in public. So in addition to doing a program on tips and tricks in bonsai, they're also a profile in generosity and courage. Vince was both a civil and mechanical engineer, and that's sort of a big deal. It's no wonder that he brings engineering principles into his hobby of bonsai. Vince has been a bonsai hobbyist since the 1960s, which predates John Naka's books on bonsai techniques. At that time, the only publication available in English was a pamphlet first printed in 1953 by the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. And you can see a copy of it here on the slide in front of you. In what was the closest thing that you could get to serving an apprenticeship in the US at the time, Vince volunteered to work alongside Carl and Shin Young at Seiju Inn Bonsai Nursery. That nursery gained fame later for propagating the Seiju elm. You'll see.
There he is.
Okay.
I think the main.
Can you hear us?
They're muted.
Oh, they're muted. Vincent, Kathy, Vincent, Renee.
My thing says main camera
Oh,
muted.
they are. They're muted, Dodie.
I got it.
You see that?
No.
Well, they do make a striking couple there. Okay.
I'm worried with there.
Okay.
Well, hi, you guys.
Again.
If you're wondering why my arm was in the position it was, it's from being a little sore from the arm twisting that Kathy did in order to convince me to do this program.
Yeah. Well,
you,
I'm glad
Kathy.
you agreed to do it. We all appreciate it.
Sitting alongside of me, as you all know, is Renee Seeley, my ABAS tonight, and without her and the rest of the crew, I don't think we'll be able to put this program on. So sit back, relax, and I hope you get something out of this program.
Sure we will. Back to Carmen.
Back to Carmen.
Hi, I'm Carmen. I'm your narrator tonight. So prior to a segment on bending branches, Vince is going to share how he's applied engineering know-how to create solutions to other common bonsai challenges. He's going to show us his soil sifting invention, also the advantages of buying a hydraulic cart, which can be used in conjunction with an invention he calls the third hand to help with repotting. Lastly, he will demonstrate a siphon jet as a way to fertilize a large bonsai collection. Golden State Bonsai Federation articles about Vince's inventions will be posted on the ABAS website. So our first challenge is to simplify the task of sifting soils into 3 sizes for bonsai potting. Most of us use a 3-piece commercial sieve. Let's see Vince's solution.
First, Renee's going to show you the conventional way of doing it.
This is life before Vince. Old-fashioned sifter where you have 3 different sizes of sieves, that you use one at a time. You put one in, sift the soil, then you have to change it, put the other one in, sift the soil again, put the other one in, sift the soil again. There's a lot of stress on your shoulders and back, and if you have a lot of trees to repot, it becomes a very huge task. So this is what I did before Vince. Once I met Vince, we have the solution to that problem. So Vince.
You start out with a plastic bucket like this. Hopefully it's one that has the stops on it so that when you stack them one on top of the other, they don't stick together. So with that, you end up cutting the top portion of the bucket out. So you end up with a sieve like this. And with this one, I put in a 1/4 inch screen. I don't know if you can see the screen size in there.
Yep.
It's 1/4 inch. Then I have made one with an 1/8 inch screen. And finally one with a window screen. And if you stack all 3 of them together, like this on top of your bucket, like that, and you pour your soil in there, and you do this sitting down, which is nice, and it's not so much strain on your shoulder. You just rock it back and forth. About 15 times is all you need to do. And with that, you end up with your different soil sizes. You have your large, back up just
A little bit, okay.
your large, your medium, your fine, then here you have your dust. So you do your 3 sieving operations all at one time. So it saves a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you get your work done a lot faster, in 1/3 the time. So that's the first thing we have going. Is there any questions about it?
I was going to ask you what you use the dust for.
I saved the akadama dust to make muck. The rest is the red lava and the pumice dust I just throw away.
So that soil was already mixed. Do you prefer to do the components separately, or sometimes all you can ever get is people just buy the already mixed together bonsai soil?
I'm sorry, you came over broken. I couldn't understand.
I'm sorry. All right, so you were using a combination already mixed soil, right? So normally you would do it in the different components, or can you do it either way?
If you buy pre-mixed soil, I wouldn't do any sieving at all. If you buy pre-mixed soil, you normally use it as is, right? But what I do is I buy separate lava, I buy separate pumice, and I buy my bags of akadama. I mix my own because I want 1/3, 1/3, 1/3.
Okay.
This is what my mix is. And I mix 2 different sizes. And I go with a coarse mix. So that's what I do.
So just to reiterate, if anyone is interested in constructing this type of a soil sifting system, it is beautifully outlined in Golden Statements magazine. Steps are all photographs of everything. It's very easy to follow. if you don't have these particular issues of the magazine, we've scanned them and we will be posting it on our website, so they'll be there for people to use. If you feel like trying your hand at making these, we had an assembly line process in one of our workshops, and we did a bunch of them for everybody. And it's actually, it's a little bit involved, but boy,
It's fun getting together, making them. Yeah.
It's
So
fun,
If you
yeah.
can get a group of people together, then it's a lot of fun to make them. But one suggestion is that the type of bucket you get is try to get the type that the plastic is opaque, because it's a little bit more ultraviolet resistant than the ones that are kind of slightly translucent. So after you make these things and you want to keep them for a while, be sure you keep them out of the weather. I've had this set here for, I don't know, 15 or more years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Dodie, you said you were looking for buckets to construct this. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Dodie? Oops,
Dodie, are you on?
she's muted.
Why is she muted?
Good.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
In Vince's wisdom, he explained to me how the buckets from pool cleaning businesses work quite well. And so I've been making calls to different pool cleaning companies, asking if they have any of the white buckets that chlorine tablets are in. And I found one source today or yesterday. And it's a slow time. It'd be easier to get them in the summer. And is there anything special you're supposed to do as far as storage?
Yeah, like I said, you want to keep them out of the sun. If you look at this is one of those buckets from pool service.
Oh, okay.
So,
Those are nice.
and make sure you have the ones that actually have this. If you can, get the ones with the tab here, because it spaces your. It spaces your sieve to keep it from jamming down there and binding. So it separates quite easily if you have these stops. You have any questions? Anybody?
Questions?
You used to,
Yes, Vince.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Can I
Yes.
come in? You used to be able to get those buckets at some of the fast food places. They used to give them away.
Right.
If you go
Good.
by.
Any place where if you can get buckets free, fine. Sometimes they charge you $1 or a couple of dollars a piece for it, but wherever you
Place
get,
like McDonald's.
if you get them for free, more power to you. The main thing is if you get the same brand, it works fine, because now they're all stackable. Yeah.
Vince, how do you attach the screen?
Pardon?
How do you attach the screen?
That's in the article. What you do is you cut these buckets like this, and then there's a way that we have shown in
this article.
the article where you cut a band from the lower portion of the bucket, and you put it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a band.
Oh, yeah.
On the inside,
Uh-huh.
and the screen is right here, and then you pop rivet the band in there, so it holds the screen in there.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun to make if you like, say, if you get 3 or 4 people together and share the cost. If you get 3 people, each one buy one little screen at different sizes, you've got it made. It takes about, this is about 14 inches across, so you have to buy, they come in, I think, 2-foot rolls.
And what did you use to cut the bucket with?
I use, if you have a hacksaw which is kind of tedious. That's how I made my first one. Then I got a Dremel with the saw blade on it that you get from Dremel. And I use that to cut the rings with. Be sure when you do use pop rivets though, because this is plastic, be sure you get the washers that go with the pop rivets. Any good. So by using the aluminum washers behind your pop rivets, I don't know if you can see it right there, that little black spot there.
Mhm.
That keeps your pop rivet from pulling all the way through, and it does a great job of holding the screen in there.
The article tells all the materials that you will be needing, requiring.
Maybe.
Okay.
So
Ernie,
are you ready to go on to the next thing, or?
are we ready to go? Any more questions? Okay, let's go.
I have a request. This is
Yeah.
Jody. I'd like to suggest, I should have said it earlier, if everybody can mute themselves and then you can unmute, please unmute to ask questions. We want you to ask questions. But unmute yourself and possibly turn your camera off because we're having a little bandwidth challenge that might help it a little bit. But please feel free to unmute yourself and turn your video on if you wish to ask questions. Thanks. Okay, should we move?
Moving on.
Moving on.
Back to the narrator.
Okay, back to our summary. This is a nice picture that shows what I like. It shows the gap between each grid, so you can see the soil, the way it's going to collect in each different level. So Vince has devised this nested soil sieving system. I love saying that, with the different screens. So rather than sifting soil 3 times, you get to do it once, decreases your labor by about 2/3. And then you've got all your sizes ready to go for bonsai repotting. And next. All right, this is challenge number 2. Where am I? Okay, this covers the ergonomics of working on bonsai. Vince is going to discuss the advantages of having a hydraulic cart. They are extremely handy. So let's have Vince give us a demo.
The hydraulic cart is really very, very useful. You can, I have one that I converted to larger wheels so that I can roll it outside. But if you have a flat surface, the one that you buy with the smaller wheels works great on any paved or concrete surface. But what I like about it is that I can put my bonsai on this thing and I'll roll it to any place where I want to work. I usually roll it outside to grab my plants, and then I'll put it back on the cart, bring it into the garage, and I work on all my plants inside the garage. The good thing about hydraulic carts, excuse me just a minute while I working on a hydraulic cart is that you can always work on the thing at eye level, and you're sitting down, which is, for us older people, it makes a lot of difference. Anyway, if you have it this level, it's right at eye level, and you do all your work here without having to get up. And then as you progress up toward the top of the tree, you just lower it on down. Work on this section. Lower it down some more. And work on the top of the tree, and it's always at eye level. So we don't have, if you're at a table or something like where the fixed height, you're not crunching down like this, working on it up here, and then have to stand up on top to work on your tree. This really saves a lot of energy just moving around. I find it quite useful. I know Renee has one, and she uses hers.
Oh, I use mine all the time. I couldn't, there's a lot of my trees I have since I'm getting older, I can't lift things and move things like I used to. So having the cart to put my larger trees on, I wheel it out into the garden, slide the, the tree onto it, bring it in, work on it, take it back out, slide it back onto the bench. It's just, for ergonomics, for saving your shoulders and your back and allowing you to work on large trees is amazing. Some of my favorite trees are big trees, and I don't want to get rid of them. I couldn't do the work on them if I didn't have something like this to work on.
I'm sure you can find this cart online if you want. But if you're in the area that has the
Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight, that's a word. Thank you, Renee. You can get these carts. I think they're going for $179 now. I know they sell online on other places at 200 or more. And there's two different sizes. This is a 500-pound hydraulic cart, and they have a, I think it's a 1,000-pound hydraulic cart, which is slightly bigger than this. I suggest you work with this 500-pound cart because it's so much easier to move. It's just a little bit more cumbersome to work on. And if you ever come across a 20% discount, you can get the cart for roughly maybe around $150, which is really a good buy. Any questions on that?
So what about taking it across a yard?
That's why I had, like I said, I converted one of mine with the bigger tires. I don't know if you take the camera and show the
bigger tires.
the bigger tires on my other cart.
Where is it?
Right here.
Oh, it's right here in front of me. Oops.
Take the camera.
Okay, let me just show you.
See, those are pneumatic tires. That's a 10-inch tire that's added onto it. And then the swivel wheels on the back are 8-inch trailing wheels. So it works out well. You can take that out in your lawn, or if you have a gravel driveway, it goes right on top of that. I know some of the people that have this converted cart have changed to the flat 3 tires, which means that you don't have to pump it up all the time. With this, I like mine with the pneumatic tires because sometimes when I go across the lawn, I want the tires to kind of flatten out just a little bit. So I let a little bit of air out of it and pump it back up, and it rolls around fine. Any other questions?
I would like to give a testimonial. This is Dodie. I always thought if good is good, bigger is better. So I bought the 1,000-pound cart, and I do not advise it. It's heavy, it's bigger, it's harder to move around. And I am now the proud owner of a smaller cart that is much, much nicer. Just my 2 cents. I didn't listen to Vince the first time. Now I know better.
I'm not always right, Dodie. Not always.
You were right on that one.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay, we'll go to the next topic.
I think, wait a second, I believe that Clarence had his hand up, but he didn't unmute. I think he has a question. Clarence, we need to unmute you. Can you ask, so you can ask your question?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Vince, with your big wheels,
Yes.
can you buy them with those big wheels on them? And if so, how much more money is that on the price? Or is it easy to do yourself?
I don't know of anybody that is doing it. I converted these myself. No, you can't buy them with these bigger wheels. They don't come that way. Does that answer your question, Clarence?
Yes, partially.
How hard is it to change?
Do you do you put wheels on them for other people?
I have,
And
but
how much does that cost?
I'm not doing them anymore because I can't lift these carts like I used to.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was doing them for, I think I have something like 15 of them out there someplace that I've
Okay.
converted, but I haven't done any the last few years. I just, it's just too heavy and too hard at my age to handle this thing anymore. I'm sorry.
You're still a young man.
I'm catching up with you, Clarence.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Okay, next. Our third challenge covers the difficulty of repotting large bonsai by yourself. So Vince has invented the need for a third hand. He demonstrates the solution he created, now being used by professionals and hobbyists, including the GSBF collections at the Huntington and Shenzhen Garden. There's also an article on this in Golden Statements that will be posted on the ABAS website. Take it away, Vince.
So this is the third hand. This came about when Sam Medina came to me one day and asked, is there anything that we can make that we can hold our bonsais in a horizontal position so that we can trim the root ball, the bottom part of the root ball, without having to hang on to the tree itself. And so after some consideration, I came up with this this piece of board. And we named it the third hand. And what it is I made it the same size as my cart because I do all my work on the cart, but you can just clamp this on the table and it works just fine. And I'll show you all this is piece of wood. Oh, I did it again.
It's okay.
Got that other
I
one?
got it. Yeah, I'll just take mine.
Vince, can you repeat what you just said? You broke up a little.
I don't know. What did I say?
I don't know. I couldn't hear you.
This was just made out of plywood. You don't have to put it back in. I need it anyway.
Okay.
And the reason why we built this thing was Sam Medina came to me one day and said, "Is there something that we make that we can hold our bonsai in a horizontal position so that we can trim the bottom of the root ball without having to hang on to one hand and clean with the other?" It's a lot easier, especially if you're cutting a large root ball and using a saw that you use both hands on it. So I came up with this contraption, and I put it on the cart. But like I say, you can clamp this thing on the table or anything and it'll work. And be sure you clamp it down, because if you put a heavy bonsai on this thing might flip over. Okay, I've had trees on this thing that were over 150 pounds and it worked fine. And all it is a bunch of spikes here and some tubing. And you set it in these holes. By the way, this is a sage elm, so you don't ever want to grab a sage elm on the base, because if you do, you ruin the bark on it. So you pick these things up by the top. And you just slide it over the edge of this thing against the two uprights and push down on it. And it holds it nicely in place. If you can see it right here,
Yeah.
If you have a bigger trunk, you just open, space these bars out a little bit further, and you have a big tree on it. Now you, without having to hang on to the tree and it helps to have a helper with you and see what we're doing. As you can see, it's held in there firmly, so you really work on the bottom of your root ball. But since this is not a repotting session, you'll just clean this thing up a little bit and throw it back in the pot, and we'll move on. You can have both hands on the root ball.
And you can see it really well.
Yes.
Work on the roots.
Anyway, that's the gist of it. You're gonna give me back the pot? I'll finish repotting this thing tomorrow. But you see how easy it is, and then, like I say, if you have a big tree, you just move these things out further. You'd actually do I've had a forced planting on this thing and just stuck these things in between the trees and then held it in place. Any questions on this? No questions? Well, we're going through this thing fast.
I
aren't we?
know.
This is Lucy.
We're expecting some questions.
This is Lucy. Just a comment that it does give you confidence in being able to transplant a tree by yourself, to know that you could do it by using this. And also with the cart, being able to transport that tree from a bench or another level. You just hike up the cart to it, slide the tree right on it with its pot, and you could just roll it back up to where you're going to be working. But all of this gives you confidence in being able to do a tree by yourself. So thanks, Vince.
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome.
Most of us can't make that.
Do to make things easier. Let's do it. Somebody had a question?
I do. So on your grove, if it's very thin, does it ever collapse down? If it's, shallow planting?
I haven't had the problem. I have. How thin are you talking about?
2 inches?
Yeah, I've had 2-inch stuff on this thing. It
Okay.
worked fine.
Okay.
In fact, I had 2-inch stuff here where I thinned it down to almost 1 inch, cutting back here.
And it's
It's still held together. I mean, it all depends on how much footage you have, in your root mass.
We have a couple of people who have their hands raised. I believe, it's not a couple of people, it's Clarence. Clarence Shearer says iPad, it doesn't say your name. So I thought, I saw you and then I saw the word iPad and I thought, there must be 2 people with their hands up. Do you have another question, Clarence?
Oh, you're talking to me. I couldn't
Yeah.
hear you well. Okay. Vince, most of us are not engineers and can't make that kind of stuff. How can you, if anybody wanted one, how could they acquire one?
Can I turn this thing over to you, Dodie?
Yeah. My husband just made one for us, and the article that we will have on the website about that describes what it is, but we're going to take closer pictures and measurements so that it's something, if you don't have to have real special materials, a saw and a drill and a hacksaw blade or a way to cut the metal. I forget. Well, that's conduit, isn't it?
Yes, this is conduit, but you can use a 3/4 inch
You do a dowel.
dowel.
Yeah, you could do a dowel.
You use a dowel.
You have a way to just cut plywood, screw it and glue it together. You could make it yourself. We'll provide dimensions, and then the spikes are actually nails, 16 penny nails.
16-inch box nails.
Well, Dodie, it's obvious to me that you don't know me. If you think I can make that.
Well, if Paul wants to chip in and say something, he can unmute himself. I don't know if he's willing to make them or not for others. But it won't be for a while, I think, though. Getting a new knee soon.
Maybe we'll have one for a raffle at some point.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Maybe we can have a workshop where we can all make them.
That's that's a possibility if if we
Yeah.
get a
Yeah, that's a great idea.
few person together, and have access to a saw and a drill, drill press and a place to work. That's the main thing. You have, if you get a piece of plywood, 4x8 piece of plywood, I think you can get you make 6 of these out of a 4x8 piece of plywood. So you get 6 people together, buy one piece of plywood, and run it, and have a saw and some screws and a drill. Sure, we can get together and do a workshop maybe one of these days.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could do it in Shepherd Arts and Gardens, right?
No.
no,
No.
no.
I don't
Maybe
think
in
our
our
table
garage.
saw.
Maybe in our garage.
Somebody's going on.
I think, yeah, Dodie's garage would be perfect.
When
Yeah, it'd
COVID's
be
over, we'll
expensive.
do that. A third-hand making party.
Okay.
I was gonna say my garage, but all I have is a table saw. I think your garage is much better equipped for woodworking kind of things, Dodie.
We can do that. We can
That
do
would
it.
be fun. That would be a really good thing to do.
After the COVID-19 is over with, we can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna party.
I'm catching up to do.
If I'm still alive and kicking.
Goes for all of us.
Right.
Kids.
Yeah, are there any other questions?
Can I say something? This is Sam.
We don't have to. No, we don't have to make it out of plywood. We use oriented strand board, which would be a lot, maybe a little bit cheap. Plywood is kind of getting expensive now.
This is nice plywood too.
Well, this is furniture grade.
Yeah, this is beautiful plywood.
So Sam, please, Sam had something he was gonna say.
Okay, since for me, I work so many repotting. So I requested Vince to make me another one. Not the plywood, but see this item over here that I have on my picture? That's a metal.
Metal one? Spotlight him so we can see him, but Dodie.
Yeah, look at my picture.
Oh,
Where's,
Vince
where's,
is
I don't
getting
see
it.
the picture.
It's here. Can you see it?
Nope.
Oops.
Yeah, that's the
Oh.
one.
There it is.
Oh, out of metal?
Yes, because the plywood, the one that the first one that I have, it takes only 2 years because it's always wet.
Ah.
So now This is the new version that Vince, I special request for that, the metal.
Isn't it wonderful to have a friend like Vince?
Yeah.
If if you want to see what it looks like, you want to spotlight me again now.
Okay.
Here's one right here. Now this one will only fit on a cart. So anyway, it's basically the same as the other one. We have but this takes about 5 times longer to make.
Yeah.
It looks simpler, but it isn't. The plywood one is a lot simpler to make than this.
Different tools too.
Well, yeah, you have to be a welder.
You have to be a welder to make this one.
Well, and most of us don't work with one as much as Sam would, where he's a professional. Ours probably lasts for 15 years, where his is going for 2.
So how much would Sam charge to make one of those, Sam?
Sam doesn't make these.
Vince makes it.
Vince makes those.
Vince, how long do the hydraulic carts last outside? Can you just keep them outside, or do they need to be in a garage?
They need to, if you want them to last, they have to be kept inside because the moisture on it will it just gets rusty.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the top just rusts, it rusts real fast. I don't know why, but it does.
Okay, thanks.
Even the stainless steel will rust or go bad on you, right?
Yeah, the stainless steel ones, if you leave it outside, what happens is the hydraulic section, the hydraulic portions of it really rust out. So it's just only the table and part of the frame is made out of stainless steel. The rest of it's steel, iron, steel, I should say.
Now, would it work if it's in a carport and it's got a plastic cover over it?
Oh yeah, you're fine if you leave it on the keep it away from the weather and maybe put like a barbecue cover over it or something like that. You should be fine. The ones with the pneumatic tires, if you leave those outside, the tires rot out real fast. So I keep mine inside all the time. In fact, these are the same tires I've had on this cart, and I've had that cart for, I know it's over 20 years because I've been in this house 18 years, and I had it quite a few years before that. So. Any other questions?
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
All right, so if you've ever dropped a bonsai on its head when repotting or dropped it off a table, you can see the advantage of having a third hand. And looking at this picture of this pine, obviously you touch that and you're going to lose what makes this a fantastic pine. So this would make it so you can work on it without touching the trunk. You can work on it alone, and it would be an extremely helpful thing to have. All right, slide number 8, 9. Okay, this is our last challenge, and it's how to fertilize your bonsai collection. And especially for those of us with large bonsai collections, it can be a challenge. So Vince is going to show us how to set up and operate a siphon jet. So this is a slide that shows the schematic, and then there's a dilution chart that would be included when you purchase it. And there's a picture of it on the side, but Vince is going to show us, put it together and show us how it works. Back to Vince.
Okay, this is what you call the siphon jet. All this is a brass fitting that water goes in one side, out the other side, and at the same time it draws the fertilizer up this tube and mixes the fertilizer as you water. So this particular one is made by Hyponex, and they may be out of business now, but I think the new company that makes it is called Hold On, and that's the one Renee has right here. And for me, it works real well. All I do is here's my this is my wall, and all you do is just screw the siphon jet right onto your faucet. And here you have a 50-foot length of hose.
Use your imagination.
Use your imagination. You screw this thing on here. And they recommend that you use a 5/8 inch hose and no longer than 50 feet. If you do that, and it does not siphon up the right amount of fertilizer. At the end of this thing, I usually put a valve on there, and this is all it is just a plastic ball valve. There it goes. And on the end of that, I have a watering rose. I don't know if you can see that or not. Then I shut this thing off. And I turn the faucet on full blast. The main thing you do is make sure you turn on your hose bib full force so that you get the maximum water flowing through your hose. And then with that, you mix your solution in a bucket like this, or if you don't have that many trees, you can do it in a gallon bucket. But since I have a lot of trees, and I water with Miracle-Gro. The normal solution for Miracle-Gro is 1 tablespoon of Miracle-Gro per gallon of water. Since on the Hyponex, the dilution is 16:1. If I want to do the full strength of fertilizing, I need to add 16 tablespoons of fertilizer, Miracle-Gro, to 1 gallon of water. And when that comes out with 16:1 dilution, it comes out to what the strength of the Miracle-Gro recommends. Now, if I do a lot of fertilizing, like if I want to water every 2 weeks, and I only want to fertilize at 50% fertilizer, and I only add 8 tablespoons per gallon of water. But it's getting late in the night, can't even think anymore. And that works real well. I mean, you just water, when you water, make sure your valve is fully open because you want the water to run through there at the full force that it does come out. And if you want to fertilize more often with a weaker solution, like 1/10 of the strength of the solution, then you use 1.6 tablespoons per gallon of water and water with that. And you do that, you water with that every week. I know some people that water and with this thing and they use a real weak solution of fertilizer, maybe 1 or 2%, and they water every day with it. So if you have a lot of trees and want to water them and want to fertilize them without having to pour in each separate pot, I recommend just water your plants like you normally do with this fertilizing method. Did I leave anything out?
Yep, cleaning.
Oh, cleaning.
Cleaning, yes.
Cleaning. When you get done, be sure you run some clear water through the maybe I'll just hold it right in front of this thing. It's white.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
If you can see this thing has a real small. Yeah, there you go. Section here where the fertilizer is put in there, and there's also a check valve right in this area here. And you don't ever want to damage that check valve or get it stuck. So what you do is you flush it real well after you get through with your fertilizer. I run a lot of clear water through it, and every so often, what you should do is just take the whole thing off and dunk it in some vinegar. That keeps the check valve and the section working real well. I've had mine for 10, 12 years. I don't know, maybe longer than that, and it's worked fine. If you do get it, these also come in the plastic version. I don't recommend the plastic version. I know a friend of mine that had the plastic version, and it didn't last them very long. So it costs a little bit more, but buy the brass one. Any questions? You can use any type of liquid fertilizer. Like if you want to use fish emulsion, you can. Or I think Bjorn said that there was a liquid seaweed, kelp, yeah, kelp fertilizer.
And Grow Power. Grow
Grow
Power
Power.
is another where you can get in a liquid
Liquid form, yeah. Somebody asked about the type solution. If you do that, if it has particles in it, be sure you strain it to the t-shirt or something like that before you put it in your bucket to fertilize. Because if you get anything into this small portion of this valve, it's going to plug it up, and then it's not going to work anymore. So, any questions? It sure saves a lot of time in fertilizing.
Oh, no, it's wonderful. Yes, it is.
Could you talk
Before I
about
just-
the amount you make up?
Pardon?
Could you talk about the amount you make up?
Oh, okay. I have about 150 trees, and when I fertilize with this, I usually make up about 2 gallons of the concentrate, and that is good for the whole, for all of my trees. So, and if you want to, just do half of them, like if I'm just doing a blanket thing for everything, like just giving everybody a little extra boost of Miracle Grow or something like that, I'll mix up 2 gallons and give everybody a shot of Miracle Grow. If I just want to do something special for the conifers or something like that, maybe 1 gallon for half of the trees. So once you use it a few times, you'll kind of get a feeling for how much concentrate it takes for fertilizing your trees. It may take a couple times to get the quantity figured out, but it works beautifully. It works beautifully.
And if you like foliar feeding, this, I mean, it makes so much easier. You're just like washing your tree with it.
The other, I guess one of the questions is are there any restrictions on the kind of
Nozzle.
Watering
wand that you use? I mean, I know some of them are real fine,
Right.
and
this one's real fine. This is a Masakuni one, so it's pretty fine, and it still works.
okay.
But the thing you have to do is make sure that if you have a valve there, it's a full flow valve. This one happens to be, I don't know, it's a odd looking valve, but when you press the handle, it opens the chamber completely. So it's a full flow system. And that's what you want.
Yeah, I know when I first started using it, I wasn't
Turning
turning the water on full force.
Mhm.
And I went back and checked the bucket and nothing had gone through. So I knew it wasn't working.
Right, you have to have the full flow of water going through there. Otherwise, it's a siphon action, so it won't work if you don't have the amount of flow of water going through it.
I see that Maria has her hand up.
So my question is, where would you buy? I guess it's going to be posted, all the other part that's needed. Where do you buy the?
All you need is actually this, right?
That's it.
And you get, the best place to do is get this online. Unless you go to a real big nursery, they may have it.
And what's that called?
The new one is called Hose On.
Hose On. Okay. Okay. So that will include
Siphon.
the little rubber hose and
it
the
has
other thing.
and has a slight, no, it's got a little filter on the, a strainer on the end, which helps.
That were used in that movie. It was kept for years in a family junkyard business.
Okay.
Question.
I think Clarence has a question.
Yes.
Clarence?
If you don't have a full flow water pressure, you can't use that. Is that correct?
Are you talking about the house pressure or the
Yeah,
hose pressure?
the house pressure. The
That's
water
all- no,
coming
that's
in
all
from the
you-
city.
Your city pressure should be about 30, between 25 and 30 PSI. And that's all you need.
Okay, all right.
The only problem I'm talking about is the restriction in the hose itself. No, after you attach the siphon jet. Because if you use, say, a 1/2-inch hose, there's a slight restriction in the hose as it flows through there, so you don't get the full amount of water flowing through it. That's why I say when you use a valve, you want to, you want a valve that opens all the way. You see how open?
Yeah.
Because if it's open that much, which some of the valves are, you're restricting the flow of water. And so that gives a little bit of back pressure in your hose. And what it does, it wants something that is pretty much full flow. So actually this thing works out real well. If you have a watering wand like the Masakuni, instead of using a valve like this, you can use this valve here on the end of the hose. And as you get to your pot, then you just flip this thing 90 degrees, you water that, and you flip 90 degrees to shut it off so you waste all your fertilizer. You go to the next pot, turn it on, go to the next one, turn it off. It works. I mean, for me, it works fine.
Mhm.
I have a stupid question. So Renee, when you use Miracle Grow full strength, can you see the color of the water when it's coming out? That
When
it's
it's coming
blue?
out, well, I haven't looked.
Oh, because I was wondering, I mean, have you ever walked over and the bucket's empty and you go, well, when did I run out of fertilizer?
I check the bucket periodically and I can feel it when I get to the bottom. You can feel it kind of in the hose and the pressure. You can
hear it. It goes,
and you can hear it.
It starts to, when you run out of fertilizer,
Yeah.
it starts to sputter.
And it makes,
Okay.
yeah.
Wouldn't, if it was blue, would it be too strong? So you might not see a color, Renee.
Probably
That's
not.
what I'm thinking.
You might be able to see fish emulsion. It's pretty disgusting.
Yeah. You smell that. You don't have to see that.
You can smell it.
So I have another question. This is Maria. So when you have your Masakuni, which I use, full force, do you not wipe out the top of your soil? I mean, does it come out full force and so your soil can get wiped out with so much pressure? No?
You try to stay away and kind of cascade it in there a little bit.
Okay, so you don't just put it right on top of the pot as you're trying to water it? like
No,
the normal pot?
no. Because you wash
Okay.
your soil right out.
Okay, that's why I wanted to make sure. Okay, I'm
And-
trying
and
to,
all the weeds that grow under your branch really grow.
yeah, I'm sure they do. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Nope.
No?
Okay.
All right, next slide.
This is when I run for the kid.
Right.
This is when Renee, run. So after a short business meeting, we're going to resume with a live demonstration.
Renee went home.
I hope the audience are staying with us.
Yeah, they're all here.
Well, we don't have much for a business meeting tonight since things are pretty much the same. Nothing's really changed a lot with the COVID restrictions and stuff. So we still can't have our in-person meetings at the Garden and Arts Center. So we're continuing with our Zoom. Thank God we have Zoom. One announcement to make is that we have received our 501c3 private charity classification from the IRS. So we are now an official private charity, and donations are tax deductible. So it's kind of a big thing. You know, we've been working on this for a while, and it's finally, we're there. We've crossed the finish line on that one. Our next online Zoom workshop is going to be Saturday, December 12th at 2 p.m. So just hope to see as many of you there as possible. I'd just like to ask, you know, when we have our little workshops like that, you know, if possible, just have something to share. Would really like to see, you know, something, you know, from each member. It's really nice to have people share things, ask questions, kind of generates a learning experience for everybody. So that's pretty much all I have for business. So I'm going to turn it over to Dodie, and she's going to go over programs for the coming future.
All righty. I want to talk about the upcoming auction. This is going to be our first Zoom auction. It's going to be on December 19th. We are first going to honor Ann Holgren as her lifetime induction into lifetime membership. It's going to be again on Saturday, December 19th. We'll start at noon, and we'll start with Ann's program and an interview with her. Looking forward to that. And then we'll move to the auction of roughly 12:30 or so. The details about the auction were in the last page of the newsletter, and Renee will also be emailing them out to everybody. But just to give you a few details, if you would like to sell something like a tree, stands, pots, tools, bonsai related items in the auction, you need to contact Sylvia to get your seller's number, download the forms. We have one form for trees and one form for other items, and complete that with as much detail as possible, so that when Paul Holtzen, he's our auctioneer, he'll have more information that he can share to those of us on Zoom. And when you then on Friday, December 18th, from 11 to 12, we're asking people to bring their auction items to the garden center. We're going to be set up in the parking lot to receive those items, and 2 copies of your seller forms, and have your trees labeled as typical. And then from 12 to 3, if you all would like to come, anybody to come out to the parking lot to view the items that are going to be available for auction, if you'd like to see them in person. We ask that everybody wears face masks and follows social distancing, just so that we're all safe during this COVID times. And then on Saturday, we're allowing up to 10 people to be there live at the garden center for the auction. That number may change if the county regulations change, but as for now, we're taking reservations. People can email me if they want to reserve a spot to be there in person, again, wearing a mask and social distancing. And it'll be first come, first served for that, if you'd like to be there in person. And so we'll have the auction via Zoom and live. The chat feature on your Zoom, all of you look at it, it's at the bottom of your screen, and it's to the right side of participants. And it's basically like text. And you would put in your bid, and we'll just be going back and forth that way. I do ask when you sign on for the auction, if you can rename yourself. Like if you go next to your picture on your screen, there's 3 dots, and you click on that and you can see where it says rename. If you could put your first and last name in, that would be helpful, so that we can better track who purchased things. And then we'll ask for you to come up to the center if you can by 4 o'clock to get your trees and items. But if you can't, then Renee and I will be taking them home, and ask if you can come get them on Sunday. If there's other situations that prevent that, let us know and we can work something out. So that's going to be our first and hopefully only Zoom auction. Hopefully next year we'll be live. Any questions about that? All righty, then I just want to let you know what's going forward. In January, we have had a change of our meeting date. It is now on Sunday, January 24th at 2 in the afternoon. The Owyoung is going to be presenting, and he's going to be talking about the yearly care schedule for all conifers. And if it's anything like his deciduous program that he recently did with the San Francisco Club that many of us saw, it was excellent. Then in February 23rd, our own Renee Seeley and Carmen Scott are going to be doing grafting. And then in March, we had a little glitch, so that's not set up for sure. And our headliner for the spring show, if we're able to have it, is going to be Jonas. And then our very own Tim Johnson is going to be doing pruning techniques in April. And then in May, Bob Hilvers will talk about behind the scenes at the Clark Bonsai collection. And hopefully we'll have our summer splash in June, but that is to be determined as well. So that's what's going on as far as the program. Anybody have any questions? Bob, is that wrong? Bob Hilvers, yeah. So if nobody has any questions, let's get back to our program.
I have a comment. Alice has posted a few things there on the chat portion for everyone to see. There are links to the hydraulic lift, to the siphon, to the wheels for the carts. And I don't know if we could take a look for a second. I'd like to share my screen if I can, Dodie.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I can see if I can get this bucket up. And I'd like Vince to say if this particular bucket would work. Vince, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Would that bucket work? I know that you had a piece that went instead of horizontal. There was a little piece of, let me see if I can annotate here. My mouse won't want to work. You had a piece, some kind of, can you see the little, this
Yes,
doesn't appear to have that. How important is that?
That vertical line that you have drawn there would be on below the lowest ring.
Okay, but so it'd be down here?
Right, it has to be down.
Oh, okay. But so this bucket doesn't have it. So is this bucket then won't work, or is this bucket, would this bucket work for what you're talking about?
It may not, because what happens is that if it jams up against that ring right there, it might be too tight on the next bucket.
No.
So then you'd have a hard time separating after you stack them.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So there's a little bit of you really have to pay attention to the bucket you get.
Right.
Okay.
Make sure that the buckets are, I think they're called stackable with the buckets. I think that's what they're called, stackable.
Stackable. Okay, so they have to be stackable.
I think that's what they're called.
Good.
Good. So his bucket?
Yeah.
He did one.
Oh, just what,
Go ahead.
Yeah, the one that was being shown was for food quality.
oh. Can you show yours, the one with a little slot to keep it from sticking?
Yeah, can you show us
On
that?
the
And you see this thing right here and right here?
This thing.
Right. You see there's
yes, I see it.
There's one there and there's one here.
Mhm.
There's about 4 or 5 of them around this whole bucket. But that keeps the other bucket from jamming up against this thing, and it's usually tight if you don't have that. that's why they put these things in there so that they make the bucket stackable without, jamming into each other.
Okay.
If you've ever had the bucket that did not have this feature on it, and you tried to pull them apart, I mean, it is a battle.
Impossible sometimes.
And just for everybody, if you wish, I think you can save the chat. I think you can save the links and stuff on your computer or have it emailed to yourself at the end of the meeting if you would like.
Okay, we ready to go on with the bending part?
Yep.
No more slides or introductions?
Nope.
Go for it.
Can you see the whiteboard? Clear enough?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. This is just, you might be asking yourself, okay, why do you want to bend something? Well, a lot of times, you'll find a good piece of material, it has a nice base on it and, nice trunk taper and stuff, but, there's absolutely no movement in it. And unless you want like a formal upright style, you might want to put some gentle curves or bends just for the aesthetic quality of the tree. So if you have something that's straight, you can actually put some gentle bends or even more severe bends in a trunk just to give it some more aesthetic qualities. So Vince is going to be going over this, and he uses very simple things that everybody kind of just has laying around in your garage, or most people do. So what he uses is a piece of rebar, a wooden block, and then just some hose or something else to protect the trunk of the tree, the bark on the trunk of the tree, and then ties it with wire and pulls the tree toward the piece of rebar with the block in the middle, and it puts a bend in it. And if you want to put a gentle bend, you have a smaller block. If you want a big bend, you have a bigger block. So it's pretty easy actually. So Vince is going to kind of show you on a piece of material how we would do this. But first, we're going to kind of go over the material.
The material we're going to use. All you need is bonsai wire, preferably copper, because copper is just a little bit stronger. Blocks of wood. Let's see.
I gotta, excuse me. Time out. Time out here. Forgot to move the camera again, huh?
That's good.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all you need is copper wire, blocks of wood like this, or you can get blocks of wood and carve it so that you have something like this with a U shape in it, a short one, a long one. And Renee made these. She got the blocks and she actually added the hose to the block. What I normally do is other common things you have is old hose that you're about ready to throw away. Just keep a section of it for making these cushions. Got a piece like that, and I split it open like that, and that goes around the trunk of the tree, trunk of the branch or whatever it is, like that, to cushion it as you put your block up against it. Can you see that? The other thing that is handy is an old rubber tube or something like this. This is a bicycle tube, and use the rubber as cushion. I use turnbuckles. These are different size turnbuckles. And I use rebar. This is a 3/8 inch rebar, 12 inches long. And you can get these at Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's called a concrete reinforcing dowel. And they already have it cut at 12 inch lengths, and they're you want longer ones, put length piece and to whatever length you use. The other thing I use once in a while is a C-clamp when I can't squeeze the trunk hard enough with my hands. I'll use a C-clamp like this. But if you have a bar clamp works a lot better. With that, let's clear this out a little bit. Now, these aren't the greatest trees now, but they're good for demonstration purposes. As you see, I already have a rebar here, and I want to move this just a little bit higher.
So these are, you can see this, these are, oops, pieces of hose here that Vince just put around the trunk to protect the bark and kind of holding them in place with a piece of wire.
This one might be light. We'll make it, we'll put a double one on here.
Vince, did you shove that rebar down into the soil or is it right there at the top of the soil?
This is right on top of the soil.
Okay, there's no advantage to shoving it down there.
Tied on the trunk of tied onto the trunk of the tree.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn this around this way and let Renee twist the wire as I grab this thing and try to bend this.
Move to the side, Renee.
Oops, okay.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Might have to use the C-clamp.
Yeah, we might have to use this. I don't know if I left enough room.
I use this a lot too when I'm like straightening a trunk or, you know, if I have a tree that is, you know, leaning over too much to one side or the other, I'll use a piece of rebar and a,
That should do it.
yeah, that's good. Wow, okay.
Can you see the bend in that now?
Yes.
So that's all there is to it to do it. Let's like I say, you know, these rubber hoses, you take it, you cut it in half like this, and you just
Slide it around.
slide around there, and there you go.
Vince, is that bark, is that dead on this side?
This, yes. This is all dead. So if you bend something here that has dead wood in it, always bend it towards the dead wood side if you can. If you bend it the other way, the wood is the dead wood will not stretch and it'll crack and it'll break.
Huh.
I do have a little bit of dead wood here, and it's probably going to do that. But when we reverse bend this thing, let's see what happens. Let's see if you can hold it right there.
Hold it right there, okay. This way so people can see it.
Angle up a little bit, okay. I'll just raise it up a little bit. Oops, I'm sorry. Your assistant was temporarily.
All right, I'm gonna turn this in this way and
I have a question, Vince. Is the
Yeah.
rebar will wiggle side to side right now, won't it? Or is it up on top?
right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm-
Doesn't matter.
He's cutting out. What'd you say?
Oh, no, that's where I seem to have a problem. It never seems to sit still.
I thought that only goes with kids. Kids never sit still.
Oh, well, rebar. So why did you put the second wire on?
Because my wire's a little thin.
Okay.
There it is. Good to have an assistant around here so that they know where everything is.
How long do those little blocks of wood stay in?
How long?
All depends on the size of the trunk. Anywhere from half a year, a year. Maybe to keep this thing from wobbling, so let's cut the top of this thing off.
Cut the top of it off.
You might need to lower your cart a little bit.
Or I could raise the camera too.
No, that's fine.
Right there.
That good?
Oops, you're off the hose.
Off the hose.
Thank you. Somebody's watching out after me.
I've done that before.
I've done that a lot of times.
Yeah.
And then I have to do it again. Oh, not big enough.
Not big enough. Need a bigger one. But we're in Vince's garage. Anything you need is in this garage.
Endless supplies.
Can you see that, Ben?
Yes.
Okay, I can hear the dead wood on the other side starting to crack. So what I'm going to do is you tighten it as tight as you can right there now. I would stop right there for now and let the thing relax. And during the winter time, I'll wet this thing a little bit more so that I get more, what am I trying to think of? When it get more moisture in this dead wood section, then I'll tighten it some more and get that bend to reverse a little bit more.
Can you see a crack?
Can hear
No,
it.
I can hear it.
I'll hear it.
You
Okay.
you want to see the crack? I can crank it some more.
No. If you're gonna hear it first, that's the warning.
Right.
We did come in a lot, though.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there's a slight crack right there.
Yeah, that, you've shown us
Can you
enough
see that?
without damaging the tree.
I was just curious where it would form in your bend.
There's one right there, right
Okay.
above this block.
Uh-huh.
There's a crack right there.
Okay.
So anybody have any questions about this type of bending? So I take this thing off now and I'll let it sit for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I'll put that clamp back on there, cinch it down maybe 2 or 3 more turns, tighten up the wire here, let it relax, come back a few weeks later, do the same thing, and I get this bend. Probably almost it will touch the rebar. So you can get the. So I don't know.
Do this with deciduous trees? Can you do this with deciduous trees?
Yes, you can, but you have to be a little bit more careful with this deciduous trees because they're a little bit more brittle. So you have to do a little bit of at a time. I'm trying to get this thing so that you can see both bends.
Oh, okay.
Right back here. Can you see it now?
Yes.
So now we have this bend here. Oh, fingers on the wrong side. You got this bend right here through here. And then now you got this reverse one going the other way. It's just starting to reverse. Can you see the slight reverse right here?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you do if you want to bend something that, what, this is maybe 1.25 inches, maybe almost 1.5 inches in diameter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, about 1.5 inches.
So it's not, they say it's impossible to bend some things. Well, I don't think anything's impossible. If you try hard enough and use big enough rebar and enough pressure, I think you can bend anything.
Where do you get the rebar cut?
Like I say, you can just get it that if you only need 12-inch length, you just buy the dowels. They have 3/8 reinforced concrete reinforcing bar in the concrete section. You have it already cut at 12-inch length. If you have long ones, and then they have it at 20-foot length, and you have to bring your own hacksaw and saw it off. You have to buy the full length and then cut it to whatever length you need.
The first time I got rebar, I got the big long piece. It's a lot easier to get the little pieces.
Well, I have pieces that are 14, 16
Yeah.
inches long, and you'd have to cut your own at that length. And if you have longer lengths, you may want to go, instead of 3/8 rebar, you will have to go with a 1/2 inch rebar, which is a little bit stronger.
But you can get them the shorter lengths.
12 inches.
12
right?
inches is about the shortest length you can get.
Have you ever bent the rebar?
Yes, I have. I've bundled 3 1/2-inch rebars together and bent all 3 of them at one time.
Oh my word.
That was on that 2-inch branch I was telling you about that I did.
Wow.
And are you limited on how close the bends can be to each other? Like, could the upper bend be farther down, or you're limited by how it's put together?
You're limited to what your tree can handle. It's not the it's not the length of the rebar or the block. It's whether your trunk will allow you to bend it any closer together than that.
Okay.
I can see where if I attach this thing down here, attach this upper rebar here
Mhm.
down at this point. And if I want to put the bend in this location here, right here, I could have done that.
Okay.
Because the difference between the bend here and the bend here is feasible.
Okay.
Not that you would, if you get it too close together, it may not be that it's easily aesthetically pleasing.
My other question, if you leave all of that on for a year, does it ever stain the bark or cause a change in the bark?
Yes, it can.
Okay. Nothing you can do about it.
No.
Okay.
That's why I try to contour my blocks to fit the diameter of the trunk. That way it distributes the load on the bark more evenly. Whereas if I just use a flat block, I would have a point load right here. Let me get a pair of tweezers. I think it's easier to see.
Point load, that's technical terms.
Well,
This is engineer terms.
Engineer terms.
all right, can you see this block?
Yes.
If I put this thing right here, that's a point load, right? Can you see that?
Yes.
That's one point that is touching the bark. So if I have that against that thing, this point of the block would touch the bark and it's smashing more. Now by using a block that's contoured to fit your trunk, what you're doing is you're distributing the load instead of at one point. You're distributing all over the curvature of this block. Something dark.
That's what I was looking for. Something dark.
The bottom of the pot.
How about,
Pot.
yeah, will this,
Here.
yeah. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. By using this, you can distribute the load all across the width of the block. Whereas if I had put it this way, and if this is the trunk, you see the bend of one point hits that block.
So the force there.
So the force right there is the heaviest. But if you had it like this, and the force is distributed all the way around here, it has a less tendency not to crush the bark. And the more cushion that you use between it, the less chances of crushing the bark.
Good question.
Very
Thanks.
good question.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
Paul mentioned that Home Depot has rebar 24 and 36 inches in stock, but I think it's a thicker rebar. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that would be a 1/2 inch and the 5/8 size rebar.
And it's okay to use that?
Sure. It's just a little bit heavier in the thing, and it's longer too, remember. So the longer the piece of bar that you're using and the pressure you're putting on it and wherever the block is, you need a bigger rebar.
Can you say that again? That didn't register.
Okay, you have to know a little bit about mechanics, okay? Let's use a piece of wire.
Piece of wire.
Okay. I have a piece, you want to get that?
Oh.
If I have a piece of wire like this, that's this thick, and I want to put pressure on it, and I want it to bend here. It doesn't take much to bend.
My pills.
It doesn't take much to bend it right there. Now, if the bar was shorter, like this, and I want to bend there, it takes a little more pressure to bend it, right? Because it's a shorter distance. You don't have the leverage or the fulcrum length from the point of pressure to the end of the bar. So if you're making a long bend, let me get another rebar. Okay, these are 5/8 rebar. I mean a 1/2 inch rebar. And this is a 3/8 rebar. Can you see the size difference?
Yes.
So the longer the rebar, if you have to tie at the bottom of this bar and the top of this bar, and this thing is held right here, you need a bigger and thicker bar because you need the strength because it'll bend right here.
Oh,
So if I have the 3/8 bar, this length, and I had it right there, if I put too much pressure on it, it's going to bend. It's the force against between the trunk and the strength of the rebar. You want the strength of the rebar to always be stronger than the strength of your trunk. You're not bending the rebar, you're bending the trunk.
So are you saying if you need a longer bar to do the bend you want, it needs to be thicker?
You want the bar to be thicker, yes. Unless you have a thin, if the trunk is not.
Bring up.
If this was the branch that you want to bend with a rebar, this rebar, I don't care how long it is. I mean, it's going to bend. The rebar is not going to bend. The branch is going to bend, right?
mm-hmm.
But if I want to put a bend between here and the top of this tree, which is way up here, I need a bigger rebar, a stronger rebar, in order to put the bend. In order to put the bend in this thing, because the leverage between here and from here to here is greater. You have to engineering courses.
I know exactly, but I can't think of the words either. But I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
Because this is a fulcrum point.
Whoops.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that there's some kind of mathematical formula that would explain this beautifully, but I don't think I'd understand it anyway.
I understood it really well, Vince. Thank you. I got it.
Any other questions?
One more question. So if you have the rebar, but you have like a branch above it or something you have to get past, can you just have the rebar come out at a farther angle with a bigger piece of wood and it won't make any difference coming back, bending it?
You mean if you want the rebar out here?
Yeah, because say you have a branch coming off and you have to get around past that branch.
There's
or
a big branch.
bend it.
Or just put the tip of the rebar underneath the branch.
Well, but if something's in the way.
Okay.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you would do, what I would do then would be maybe something like, would you hold this right here?
Yeah.
And attach a rebar out here.
Uh-huh.
Okay. But then I would revert, instead of trying to push this thing this way, I put it opposite. If I want the bend to be in that direction,
Yes.
I would put this piece over here.
Oh, uh-huh.
And reverse it and squeeze the thing together. You see what I'm saying?
So the bend is.
The bend is right here now, going that way.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So you can do that too by spacing it out with blocks like this, but the hard thing about this is when you start putting pressure on it, if you don't have it tied just right or braced just right, when you start putting pressure, this thing's going to
They
rotate on you.
rotate, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And when it starts rotating, then it falls apart.
That's what happens to me all the time. Okay.
Right. So you have to get it exactly the right spot, and you have to have the pressure at the right spot.
Ugh.
Otherwise, and when you twist, the main thing is when you're twisting the wire, be sure you're exactly opposite of where this thing is and where it is here. Because if you're off to one side, like here, you start twisting it, it's trying to start pulling this thing just a little bit toward the front as you twist. And then it's going to collapse on you.
Collapses, yeah.
Okay.
So your pressure points are going to be very, very precise.
Critical, yeah.
Critical, right?
Okay.
Does that help anybody?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions on this plan?
Is it time for snacks now?
Yeah.
It could be, unless you want to see one more.
One more.
Hey, I got a question for
more.
Vince.
Somebody has a question?
Where the tree cracked a little bit when you heard the noise,
Yes?
if it goes vertical or horizontal, does that make a difference as far as if you stop there or keep going?
The crack was horizontal. I don't think you ever get one when you're bending like this that it'll be vertical.
Oh, okay.
It,
Thank you.
Vertical would be, it'd be following the grain of the wood, and what it would be doing is it would be popping the branch apart. In this case, what happened was the branch was like this, and what happened is when we bent it too far, it cracked right here, okay, across the grain.
It cracked across the grain, not with the grain.
Right.
Okay, okay. I've had some crack with the grain, and I just kept going a little bit further, and then it healed itself. It rolled over and healed itself. So I was wondering if you had any theory on that.
I've never had them crack vertically. It's always, every time I've bent something like that, it's always been horizontal. I don't know, what kind of tree was it?
Little California, a small one. It was a telephone pole, and I ended up doing your bar work like this on it a while back, and it's living to tell the story.
Okay. Yeah, I can see where it could be. What happened was that your trunk split, actually. It didn't crack, it split. So you end up with slightly bigger trunk diameter at that point. Did you not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, from where the block and stuff was, forcing it on the other side. That's kind of exactly what it did. It kind of grew over that block area and rolled almost like wire being around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a good point to make. Any other questions? How are we doing on time, Dodie?
We're doing okay. Let's see the next tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more tree.
This is a good demonstration tree. It's not a good tree itself in that the foliage is not that great. I haven't been taking care of it. It's and not that good a health because I didn't take good care of it. But it's open enough where I can show you what I want to do with this tree. I have this branch right here that I want to move over to this position here. Because if I could turn this thing a little bit more, you see that big wide opening there? There's no branch in this area. Right here. So what I want to do is I want to move this branch over to there. But there's nothing here that I can pull against. You pull that branch over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this rebar here and I'm going to attach it to this branch here and this branch here. Can I get you to hold that there for me? Okay.
Yeah, I understand all of this. It's just that I can't find the words to explain it because I just know.
You took physics, Renee.
Yeah, I know. And I understand, I just can't explain it. I'm not good with explaining things. How do I explain this?
Sometimes it's not explaining, it's trying to figure out the word you're trying to think of.
Mhm.
How are you choosing this angle that you've got this going out?
Just random.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a good answer?
No.
So all I did was attach a rebar to those two branches so that I have an anchor point out here. Can you see that?
Mhm.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this this turnbuckle that we talked about earlier, and I already put a loop on this tree already, so that it won't take so much time, your time. So all this rebar is to have some place to anchor this end of the
Okay.
turnbuckle.
And it is kind of important that the placement of this rebar is important to get the right angle to be able to pull this over, to be able to move the branch in the right direction. It's not just random.
Yeah. You're kind of eyeballing it's going a straight line from the branch to the rebar.
Right.
You have to, you have to create a point to where that.
Okay. Can we?
Is that good?
That good? Let's take it off the turntable.
Turn it off. Okay. Is that good?
So you want to put your finger there and
let's see. Let me just this. I'm
okay.
going to put my finger here on the end so you can see how this moves as he cranks the turnbuckle.
Yep.
You can see that branch moving.
Up.
Now on this particular juniper, the rotation point of this branch is right here. And it's fairly flexible in this area. So I'm able to move this branch quite a bit. We've already moved it, what, 1.5 inches?
Yeah, at least 2 inches. Yeah.
So compared to the last method, this is moving it all along the length of the branch.
Right.
Okay.
So let's rotate this a little bit so you can see that we've closed this gap between these two branches quite a bit already.
Mhm.
Let me take it to the max for tonight.
Take it to the max.
And you hear the snap, crackle, and pop, right?
Nope, it hasn't snapped, crackle, pop. Anyway, I've moved that thing over a good 2.5 inches.
Yeah.
Is it twisting as it's moving?
It's twisting right at this point right here.
Okay. So if that
If
cracked,
for
that could do a
some
spiral
reason or another,
crack.
it didn't do it.
Okay.
I don't see it.
That's really neat.
Nope, I don't see a crack. No cracks.
Okay. If for some reason or another, I don't know why, you want this not to bend around at this point here, you want to bend on this branch here, right at this point, then you would have to tie a rebar with something really strong parallel to this trunk or this branch right here. Maybe I'm getting a little bit too far from you guys for this thing. I would tie this thing right here across here, and I would tie this rebar to this branch here. I guess you can't see can you see my?
No, move your hand, Renee.
Oh, move your, my hands in
Yeah.
there.
Your hands in the way.
Okay. You see my finger here?
Uh-huh.
I would tie the end of the portion of this rebar to this branch here so that this rebar can't rotate.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And then I would crank this thing some more, and what happens it would bend this branch at the point where I have this thing attached to this rebar.
Mhm.
If you want to bend the branch itself, in other words, if you want to do, right now the branch is just like this, and I'm rotating around here
Okay.
at the base. However, if I want to move just part of that thing, now if I put a rebar up to my knuckle here and tie that thing to that rebar right there at the knuckle and tie it to the other branch so that the rebar can't move and continue tightening the rebar, I can put a bend into the branch itself.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's only if you want to put a bend in the branch too also. Any questions on this method?
Do you prefer this method for deciduous trees?
I have done this on deciduous trees, but on deciduous trees, I usually don't turn it that drastic at one time. I'll take it to the point where I think it is just about ready to crack. And that's purely,
Depends on the
feel,
tree.
yeah. When you get to that point, quit. Let it sit for maybe 2 or 3 days, maybe a week or 2 weeks. And then put another 2 or 3 turns on the turnbuckle and let it rest again for 2 or 3 days. And if it's a big branch, maybe 2 weeks, put another couple turns on the turnbuckle and keep on doing that. You may take 6 months to bend a branch, and I have done that. It took me well over 6 months to bend one of my trees, but I just did it slowly and it worked. Remember, when you release the turnbuckle, it's going to spring back just a little bit. Just the same way when you wire a branch, when you take the wire off, it has a tendency to move back just a little bit. Any questions?
So Vince,
Yes.
that second rebar, that's acting as a holdback to whatever section of that branch you want it to hold back.
Right.
Okay. Good stuff.
I hope I imparted some I don't know, what do you call it? Some ideas or methods
understanding.
methods of doing something and trying to make it a little bit easier.
Thank you, Vince.
Vince makes it look a whole lot easier when you try it yourself. Just, it's, don't be surprised if it doesn't work really well. It's kind of a trial and error when you first start.
But don't give up.
Don't give up.
I know, I worked with Carmen a couple of times and we had, it kept on slipping on us, didn't it, Carmen? The first time we tried
Yes,
to
it
put a
did.
rebar on one of your plants, but we finally got it.
I keep bringing them to you. That's my solution.
What's that?
She says she keeps bringing them to you.
Oh.
That's her solution.
Is he, no,
It needs to come up.
took the camera up a little bit, she said.
Oh, whoops.
Nope.
There, okay.
We had a notice to our director that our camera was pointing the wrong way. Is there anything, other questions that you want to ask or anything that I might be able to help you with? Anybody?
We don't have questions.
I have a question, Vince. Do you have any great ideas for how to organize your wire?
Yes.
Debbie. Sound like Debbie Belmonte? Is
Yeah.
that Debbie Belmonte?
Yes, huh?
Okay. That's the aluminum.
And I just happen to have some of the fittings. This is a wire caddy that's made out of PVC pipe. It's a 3/4 inch, no, 1/2 inch PVC pipe. And all it is just a bunch of fittings that you can get from your Ace Hardware, Home Depot, Lowe's, any of those. And the fitting you need is you need 4 of these things. Right? They're 3-way fittings. Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
No.
Couple of 4 elbows.
I don't have any elbows. How come? Anyway, need 4 elbows.
Turn it sideways. Yeah.
Need 4 elbows for the top section. Need 4 of those 3-way for the bottom.